Infamous TV, y'all already know what time it is. About to do this vlog in the dark. Once again, this is part 2 about the Earth. Is it round? Is it a globe? Or is it flat? Let's get back into this video.
Trace it back to Babylon, you can see all the different gods going through it, but there is no signs to Copernicus's on the revolutions of the spheres. It's a philosophical tract, and it's all based on the Hermetica.
Up is up, down is down.
Now, obviously, up is up and down is down. We know that, right? So what he's about to explain to y'all is about gravity. What is gravity? Is gravity real? Or is this like weight?
A visual aid. I have a pin. If I release it from my grip, what happens? Anybody? Correct. It falls. Was that gravity?
No.
The molecules that make up this pin, plastic, ink, it's got a little rubber grip on it, are more dense than the molecules of the air surrounding it. The molecules of the air will not support the weight, so they fall. So it falls when you let go. Like that. Density and mass make an object heavy.
It's weight.
There's no gravity. Simple. Up is up, down is down. Objects fall because they're heavy. If it floats, it's lighter than air. Helium, fill a balloon with helium, it goes up. Filled it with hydrogen, it would also go
Starting
up.
to make sense, people?
Lighter than air,
A little
floats. Heavier than air, falls. It's not complicated.
It's really not.
Gravity is a god because it's the answer. It's the magic answer to everything. Why? How does this? How does the Earth keep us on, but it still spins around, it still orbits, and not gravity? How's the moon? How's the type of gravity? Why doesn't the moon fly off to the sun? Because the sun's got bigger gravity. It's the way gravity works. Don't worry about it, it's gravity. Gravity is the god that explains everything very, very magically. There is no need for gravity whatsoever if we're on a fixed stationary plane and the heavenly bodies are simply going above us. The reason why you don't fall off is because you're denser than the air that underneath you. It's just, again, Occam's razor. It's a straightforward explanation.
Basically, perspective of living on a globe is preposterous, it's ridiculous, it's hilarious how we are taught to perceive the world we live on, because basically, even when trying to depict it, it's hilarious. They have no way of depicting it without it being comical. You have
It's crazy,
whales
right?
climbing the curve, like it's absurd. How can we live on a globe?
It's crazy.
Core of the Earth,
Gotta ask
that
yourself
you've seen the
that.
cutaway. This much is crust and mantle and magma and liquid molten stuff at the center. The deepest hole that's ever been drilled in the history of mankind to date, even with today's technology, 8 miles. If you want to say this is what the first 8 miles looks like, I will believe you, because they can show me the hole. This goes 8 miles down, okay? It goes 8 miles down. That's how thick is the plane that we live on? It's at least 8 miles, because they've drilled down that far, but they can't go any farther. It doesn't work. So it's speculation.
With a sphere of 4,000 miles radius being spun round once every 24 hours, a little bit of calculations will show that that person there is being spun round at about 1,000 miles an hour, and it doesn't know it? I mean, this is obvious nonsense.
The stage was set for one of the most important events in the history of physics, the Michelson-Morley experiment. The experiment failed to detect the Earth moving in or against the ether. the problem was serious. Although various solutions were advanced, in the end, science was faced with a choice. Either discard the ether, or admit that the Earth wasn't orbiting the Sun. It was Albert Einstein who came up with the solution, which now forms the basis of our physics, and which we call the theory of relativity. Einstein eliminated the ether as the cause,
right?
and said that it was simply a principle of nature. That when objects move
Nah,
through
it
empty
ain't
space,
crazy.
they contract
It's
in
real
length.
shit.
They decrease in the time traveled, and their mass increases, all by the same proportion. Hence, in order to maintain the Copernican principle, the length, time, and mass of moving objects were altered. And this is the essence of Einstein's special theory of relativity.
All of physics collapses with that experiment.
Foucault's pendulums do not uniformly swing in any one direction. Sometimes they rotate clockwise, and sometimes counterclockwise. Sometimes they fail to rotate, and sometimes they rotate far too much. Scientists who have repeated variations of the experiment have conceded time and again that, quote, it was difficult to avoid giving the pendulum some slight lateral bias at starting. The behavior of the pendulum actually depends on 1. the initial force beginning its swing, and 2. the ball and socket joint used, which most readily facilitates circular motion over any other. The supposed rotation of the Earth is completely inconsequential and irrelevant to the pendulum's swing. If the alleged constant rotation of the Earth affected pendulums in any way, then there should be no need to manually start pendulums in motion. If Earth's diurnal rotation caused the 360-degree uniform rotation of pendulums, then there should not exist a stationary pendulum anywhere on Earth. It has been said that the pendulum experiment proves the rotation of the Earth. This is quite impossible, for one pendulum turns one way, and sometimes another pendulum turns in the opposite direction. Now we ask, does the Earth rotate in opposite directions at different places at one and the same time?
Right.
We should like to know. Perhaps the experimenters will kindly enlighten us on this point.
There's all kinds of evidence for the phenomenon of what's called continental drift.
All type of evidence.
This means that the continents are able to move as if they're floating on a fluid.
Yeah.
Now, if the Earth is spherical, if it's spinning, anybody knows that if this is spinning very, very, very fast like that, that the continents should all be located at the equator, because centrifugal force would move the continents from the poles to the middle.
The Coriolis effect is often said to cause sinks and toilet bowls in the northern hemisphere to drain spinning in one direction, while in the southern hemisphere causing them to spin the opposite way, thus providing proof of the spinning ball Earth. Once again, however, just like Foucault's pendulums spinning either which way, sinks and toilets in the northern and southern hemisphere do not constantly spin in any one direction. Sinks and toilets in the very same household are often found to spin in opposite directions, depending entirely upon the shape of the basin and the angle of the water's entry, not the supposed rotation of the Earth. Jennifer Horton wrote, while the premise makes sense that the Earth's eastward spin would cause the water in a toilet bowl to spin as well, in reality the force and speed at which the water enters and leaves the receptacle is much too great to be influenced by something as minuscule as a single 360-degree turn over the span of a day. When all is said and done, the Coriolis effect plays no larger a role in toilet flushes than it does in the revolution of CDs in your stereo. The things that really determine the direction in which water leaves your toilet or sink are the shape of the bowl and the angle at which the liquid initially enters the bowl. The Coriolis effect is also said to affect bullet trajectories and weather patterns as well, supposedly causing most storms in the northern hemisphere to rotate counterclockwise and most storms in the southern hemisphere to rotate clockwise, to cause bullets from long-range guns to tend towards the right of the target in the northern hemisphere and to the left in the southern hemisphere. Again, however, the same problems remain. Not every bullet and not every storm consistently displays the behavior and therefore cannot reasonably be used as proof of anything.
They got us to ridicule it, and that was the genius in their whole plan. If you ridicule something socially, it's ridiculous, so I'm not going to look into it. When if you're thinking about it, flip it inside out, to assume the Earth is flat makes so much sense, to assume it's a globe is so ridiculous. We should have laughed at that, you know. And it's funny how people who still believe
Fish
in the sphere
Islands.
always make fun of the flat Earth because they'll say, "Well, how can I stay on? I'll fall off." I mean, that's ridiculous. I'll fall off.
Right.
They have total faith in not tumbling down the sphere. For some reason, this appears safe to them. You know, it's like, no, wouldn't a level surface appear more sensible and safe? If you really think about it.
To me, it do.
People say, well, go look at the planets. The planets are...
So I just want to keep y'all, you know, up to par with a lot of information that y'all probably don't even know. Like, this is the information that I believe that people should be, you know, taking into consideration. Like, at least do your research on it, because if you don't ask questions or if you don't actually do your research on things that you question, then, you know, it's like, how you gonna know the truth? You know what I mean? The truth, knowledge is power. You know what I mean? It's power. It's like you just gotta know what to do with it. You know what I mean? And that's what I'm trying to do here, right on King Infamous TV, right on this platform. I'm trying to bring y'all truth, wisdom, knowledge. So make sure y'all subscribe to the channel. More videos to come.